Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just going to give it just a moment for people to connect to audio, but thanks for joining us today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ISPCAN monthly webinar. My name is Jane Estes, and I'm the ISPCAN Knowledge and Content Development Manager. ISPCAN's international webinars are always free of charge and cover diverse topics and programs, which are presented by subject matter experts from around the globe. These 90-minute sessions are designed to help you, our members and partners in the ISPCAN community, gain access to knowledge and expertise to inform care, improve practice, and drive policy change. All of this is critical to help improve the outcomes for children globally. Today, in partnership with the Cactus Foundation India, we are pleased to bring you Combating Bullying through the lens of a 13-year-old survivor. Tips for making the most of today's session. Please engage with us. This session is meant to be an active, interactive learning platform. Please participate by sharing your comments in the chat and your questions in the Q&A box throughout the webinar. We will use your questions to begin the Q&A session that will follow immediately at the conclusion of the presentation. Also, please take a moment to introduce yourself to the other attendees, our moderators, and our featured presenter in the chat box. Let us know where you're joining us from, your organization, and your discipline. Through the registration, we see that we have representation from over 90 countries and 20 professional disciplines in our audience today. To enhance your experience, you may enable closed captioning from your Zoom control bar by choosing Captions. And as always, for joining us today, a recording of this session, the panel discussion, presentation slides, and links to any featured resources will be sent to you after the webinar. Our hope is that you gain critical insights on educating yourself on effective ways to intervene if a child reports bullying. And as a child advocate, to prepare yourself to prevent bullying and protect children from trauma and the disastrous effects that bullying has on the physical and mental well-being of a child. Our key learning objectives for today's session is to recognize what bullying really is, beyond its simple definitions, to understand the victim's journey, the neurobiological and psychosocial impacts, to identify the bully psychology and the cost of being the bully, to address institutional gaps and the role that they can play in toxic peer relationships, and to discuss and share best practice on ways to create impactful child-centered action plans. And now to meet our presenter. Sahir Pahad, child warrior and lead volunteer at Cactus Foundation India. Sahir is a trailblazing 13-year-old teenager who's an inspiration for change. She's an embodiment of a compassionate and driven individual committed to forging a brighter future. Having battled through toxic peers and bullies herself, Sahir provides a clear understanding of how these situations affect the victim. She gives personal insight on how adult leaders can protect a child from experiencing bullying. Sahir works to develop peer awareness about issues that matter to create safe childhoods. She uses her voice through advocacy to let the world know that the voices of all children matter and need to be heard. In 2023, she trained and sensitized more than 1,000 people. She's a certified on-field trainer and speaker for adults-only trainings. She designs and facilitates child-centered modules and workshops for Cactus Foundation. Her areas of interest and trainings are prevention of child sexual abuse, child rights, cyber safety for kids, bullying prevention, and gender sensitivity. And Sahir would like to begin this session by asking you a simple Zoom polling question. Have you had any personal experiences with bullying in your professional or personal life? So if you'd like to take a moment to answer this question, yes or no. Thank you very much. The results are coming in quickly, so we appreciate your participation. I'll give it just a few more moments. So Sahir, can you see your answers?
Hi, Jane. Yes, I can see the answers, and the very shocking results. 83% out of so many people. But something that proves my point for today, that bullying is a silent pandemic that is around the world, and that is lurking in the shadows, and it's going to follow into adulthood too. So I'm very excited to begin my webinar for today, and give insights to everyone on how to tackle bullying, and how to create this safe space for children around the world.
Well, it's my honor now to turn the session over to you, and welcome. We appreciate your time and your sharing your personal journey with us.
Thank you so much, Jane. I think I would like to start by good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon to my lovely audiences across the globe. I'm truly grateful to for this opportunity given to me by Team Ispican, Jane, Holly, Pragati, and thank you so much, Jane, for your kind words to introduce me, and I'm very much humbled. Good morning, everyone. It is very overwhelming, and it's gives me great joy to see you all, or to see all your faces gathered here from across continents and cultures. I've seen people from Dubai, Morocco, India, Finland, and I'm really happy with the number of people who have actually registered and joined the webinar. And we're all united by a common cause, which is to combat bullying. Thank you to the incredible support by Team Cactus Foundation and the gracious invitation from Ispican. And I'm honored to present this webinar to you. Okay, let's proceed. So, a quick disclaimer before I start. I may not have a string of credentials after my name, but what I do have is a story, a story that started when I was just 10 years old. Now, at 13 years old, I stand here in front of you not as a polished professional, but someone who has walked through the shadows of bullying and, emerged on the other bank and is full of determination to make a difference. My mission has led me to interact with a diverse array of individuals, teenagers, children, parents, teachers, policymakers, and many more individuals, all united for a shared goal of combating bullying and raising awareness about bullying prevention. But let's get real for a moment. I'm still figuring things out. I'm learning as I go, and my perspectives are shaped by the ongoing conversations that I'm observing around me and that I'm having with others. So today, I choose and I ask you to listen to not a polished professional, but just to a teenager who's on a mission to, bring some compassion in the world and to change the narrative surrounding bullying. I would also like to put across that I know the topic of cyberbullying is on a rise, but today I will not be getting into much details as I will need another complete session to, just focus on that. But this space is to share the unique aspects of bullying, the overlooked topics, the topics that have been pushed under the carpet. So I'm really excited to delve into the presentation, and I hope all of you are too. Now, the agenda for the webinar is just a reflection of my own encounters with bullying as well as my experience as child warrior. when I get to meet all the stakeholders and engage with them. So, what truly distinguishes my approach is my unwavering focus on power dynamics. I know it's something new, something that many people look on, and I found this topic very interesting because it's not just the surface level interactions between the bully and the victim. It's also about peeling back the layers to reveal the intricate dance of power that often remains unseen and not visible to the common, or not visible to everyone. Understanding and rebalancing these dynamics are the milestones or the keystones to create spaces that are free from bullying. And along this path, I'll share the invaluable wisdom I have gathered through my research and my on-field experiences with a number of people. And as we journey together, I'll offer you a glimpse into my present. But don't forget to engage by using the question and chat option made available to you. I shall be facilitating an activity at the end of the webinar, and I'm looking forward to listening to you too at the end of it. Also, let me tell you that our volunteers in the chat room will help you in case you need any assistance. So let's dive straight in. When I met people while conducting sessions, I'm often asked to share my story. In the initial days, to be honest, I would just tear up talking about it, and it would take me weeks together to gather myself. But as I started sharing my story and I started holding space for other kids around me so they could share theirs, I learned a lot about bullying. I realized that there are some basics that are common in every story, and um, in the sense, all stories are similar, and they become unique with the way the stakeholders perform their responsibilities and interact with each other. So to start with, I was in grade 4 when I shifted from a small town in India to world metropolitan city, Dubai. And I didn't want to move, but had to move because my parents chose to. And I tried my best to adjust with all the new faces and new ways of the place, because everything was different. Like, from being a happy go lucky girl in a class of 70 students, I was now in a class of just 20 pupils at a time. And the change and the transition I experienced was huge. So, through this transition, the bullying took many forms, from its beginning in the online version to social bullying, where I sat alone for an entire year without anyone to talk to me. The elders in my story would be stuck with, we have no evidence, we can't do too much. And but you tell me, how do we capture the smirks, the laughs, the rumors, and how do we collect evidences for the same? And every time I made a friend, my bully would make arrangements where my friends literally started ghosting me. On the surface, it seemed as if it's just one person that I had to deal with. But unfortunately, for 3 years, I had a lot to deal with the bully, my peers, the bystander, the system that only acknowledged physical bullying, and that fails at giving justice to the victim in absence of evidences. The pressure that I put on myself to stay afloat, to do my best, to not become what the bully wants me to be, was immense. So I also, there were pressure of not sharing her name and this experience with anyone, except my principal and a few trusted teachers, just because for a long time when I shared her name, the reactions of people would feel as if they put me under the bus. So through the upcoming slides, I shall share my experiences in snippets, since I've always believed the more details means that I shall make my bully more vulnerable for being bullied, because after all, we are of the same age. So, without getting in more intricate details, let's know my story as we progress through the slides. the first thing that popped out in the question that popped up in my mind when I was observing my surroundings with being excluded by my group of friends or not being spoken to in class was what was happening to me. Because my bullying began during the COVID time, so the classes were online, and the first time I shared with my parents that XYZ is doing this to me and I'm not liking it. I'm not feeling safe and I'm very uncomfortable. My parents didn't believe me. They thought that it's just like a one off incident, but the bullying continued. It was repetitive. And after my parents' invalidation and the repetition of bullying, I started searching online and learned that I was being bullied. I didn't read much except that there are that it is very common in in school going kids around the world. Another thing that came up into my mind was, am I alone? Because I was not being because I didn't see anyone around me who's going through the same. And for almost 3 to 4 months my parents thought that I'm struggling to adjust and that I'm just a pre-puberty kid who's getting touchy, and I felt really alone. And yeah, sometimes I did feel abandoned by my parents. I realized that when my parents aren't able that if my parents aren't able to make sense of my experience, then maybe it's just me. And the loneliness next to the next loneliness led to the next round of research, and the statistics I found were really shocking. Because one or two of the most important statistics was that, as per WHO, in 1 in 3 kids experience bullying worldwide, and that includes like all forms of bullying, which is physical, verbal, social, cyber. And when I read this, somehow for a long time I just normalized it in my heart. My story was just another one. So this is how I felt alone. I felt many things at this time, and it was so exhausting to me because of so many mixed emotions. Just recently, post therapy, I have begun to navigate these feelings wheel in a regulated and a healthy manner. But some common feelings that I would really feel at that time was isolated, inferior, apologetic, unworthy, frustrated because I didn't know what to do, abandoned because my parents did not believe me at the time, betrayed, sad, very angry because I felt that why is this happening to me? What have I done to experience such cruelty? Hurt, lonely, and unsafe. And I felt really ignored by all my classmates and friends. I felt humiliated because of the rumors that were being spread about me. And I had lost all my confidence. Like, I could not speak in front of my parents without stuttering. And I was a very confident stage speaker and a performer. So, because of the bullying, I withdrew to become a person where who had so much of self doubt. So this whole process was really challenging, to be honest. The impact on me, I think there was physical, psychological, social, and mental impact, because the immediate impact of bullying can never be seen. But the effects of bullying are very long lasting and also continue into adulthood. The biggest immediate impact was extreme emotionality and sensitivity, self doubt, and the long term consequences that I observed in the course of last 3 years include my struggle and relationship with food. Because I used to eat a lot. If anything happened at school, I would go and I would just eat and eat and eat. Then my fatigue, my hyper arousal mode, and me being stuck in a freeze and fight mode. And don't forget the grief that I really experienced, because I lost so many school days without creating any memories, but just having those memories where I was being bullied and having bullying episodes. So this is what I experienced. Then let's go ahead with the impact or the effects of bullying, something that's a really crucial topic. So before I proceed, I really wish to highlight some important effects, that can be observed at a psychological as well as a physiological level in a long term. So this is true for people who get bullied and don't receive help. uh, don't expect to see the bullying or the impacts of bullying right away, because they slowly increase, and you might be able to see it in the long term. In most cases, the effects continue to show up in various phases of life, like adulthood, childhood, or whatever it is. That's true for the victim as well as the bully, because the bully also goes through a lot because he or she has bullied someone. And I have been struggling with the neurophysiological changes, and I'm undergoing therapy to develop myself and get out of those damages that it has done to me. So leading academic researchers researched into various into the ways bullying and peer victimization in childhood harms the brain. So Dr. Tracy Valencourt and Dr. Irina Palamarchuk conducted a meta-analysis of the last 25 years of research. And brain damage in bullying victims is real, and it is not a myth. So chronic emotional dysregulation is bound to, be the one of the major consequences that can extend into adulthood, leading to PTSD, depression, anxiety, and eating disorders are also just some mental health challenges that we face as victims. And it can also lead to suicidal ideation and attempts to self-harm. Bullying is one of the leading causes in teenagers for why teenagers consider to commit suicide or harm themselves. Extensive research shows that peer victimization disturbs the emotional processing, which can lead to psychiatric disorders, and the targets or the bully or the victims of an intense response to social exclusion, and they may develop extreme forms of adolescent social anxiety. We have firstly sensitivity towards facial expressions, where bullied children, they may develop a heightened sense or heightened sensitivity towards facial expressions, which can lead them to misinterpret or misinterpret feelings of surprised or neutral faces as angry ones. And this suggests the alteration in brain regions responsible for emotional processing and uh, cause perception, which causes chronic emotional distress. It is something that I have personally experienced, because whenever my parents would just tell me something to do, I would get very sensitive about it. And even if they're just telling it in a normal casual tone, I would feel, oh, they're getting angry at me, and then the cycle starts. Secondly, we have impaired cognitive reasoning, where the chronic emotional distress caused by bullying can impair cognitive reasoning abilities in bullied children. We also have the neurophysiological changes, where children who experience bully may exhibit symptoms of depression and PTSD. And these symptoms reflect neurophysiological changes in the brain, similar to those which are observed in children who are abused. These changes also include suppressed neurogenesis, which is the birth of new brain cells, and delayed myelination, the installation of nerve fibers. Myelin, I think most of us know, is very important for developing skills, knowledge, and talent. So just imagine how much a victim might be going through, and might be experiencing at that time. Last but not the least, we have elevated stress hormone levels, where bullied children often have repeatedly elevated levels of stress hormone, also known as cortisol, which can have very detrimental effects on both the brain and the body. So, the cortisol level can be very high or very low, both of which are dangerous to the physical health and mental health of a child, because they're just having they're just two extreme levels of production of cortisol, which is unhealthy in great ways. So it is also it is also something that can cause weak immune system and detrimental to physical and mental health. These changes just underline the profound impact of bullying on the developing brain, and emphasize the urgent need for us to prevent or intervene and support awareness of combating bullying. Because at when children are growing till the age of, I think, 18 or 21, the brain is just developing. So these experiences of bullying will harm the brain and will affect the growth of the brain negatively. So I hope we all understand the severity of the problem. Now, when I was researching about bullying, I noticed that there were some common themes among all the definitions that were coming up by various organizations like UNESCO, WHO, CDC, and also my interactions on field helped me see that see the definitions in a real life. So the 4 points: repetitive, intentional, aggression, and imbalance of power. These are 4 points which are very common in almost all definitions of bullying, all articles, all research papers. And to begin with, it's important to know that not everything can be termed as bullying. For example, your child's teacher asking your child to complete his or her homework, it is not bullying. Or you telling your child, giving your child a deadline for when they can come home, is not bullying. So it's important for us to know the difference between teasing and bullying. An incident happening just once cannot be labeled as bullying. It needs to happen repeatedly in a regular time interval. So that's one important point: repetition. Secondly, it will always have malicious intentions, or an intention to harm someone physically, mentally, socially. So this is, of course, I think, very self-explanatory, because if one spreads rumors or whatever it is to about your child, and if you tell them to stop, if the actions are unintentional, they will stop. But in bullying, it will not stop. In bullying, there's always aggression shown by the bully. It might be physical, verbal, aggressive, passive aggressive, many different forms of aggression. And this is not just the last point. There's also a power imbalance, something that's very important and something that's very overlooked by most people. So one thing that really stuck with me was that there is an imbalance of power in any case of bullying. The first time I realized this imbalance of power, actually, it's a very interesting incident. I was with my therapist, and in the therapy session, I was narrating an incident that happened to me in school with my bully. So to her, I was just saying, my bully did this, my bully did that, my bully told this about me to someone. And I was not naming her with her name. And my therapist told me to stop. She looked into my eyes and she told me, said, why are you calling her your bully all the time? You have to take that power from her. You have to name her with her own name. So if you call her your bully, then you're bound to play the victim role. Instead, if you call her by her name, you are taking your power back from her, because she's just a girl like you. So take your power back. This golden dialogue or conversation with her changed my way of looking at bullying. So I realized that if I call her my bully all the time, it would always give her the power and not me. So hear me out very mindfully as I delve into the unique and overlooked aspect of power dynamics in bullying. Power dynamics and the imbalance is actually the root cause of the problem, and we can find answers to preventing bullying and protecting the rights of children by restoring this power balance. So, as we proceed to the slide, it's interesting that my experience of bullying has opened my vision and heart to see and sense any bullying happening around me. This curiosity has led me to observe and apply my learnings, in my surroundings. So when you hear the word bullying, all of us here will just think this: classrooms, school kids, campuses, teachers, school. And this is something that I believed even until a year ago. However, I have now realized that we are living in a world, in a society that is designed to empower the bullies and destabilize the victims. We have a bigger design in this world that encourages all of us to be bystanders in the equation. Bullies get reinforced in the name of culture, of power, government, control, and so many more ways. So, at the micro level, we have the families, the schools, the communities where bullying is very easy to spot. Speaking to kids in shelter homes, rural parts of India, urban metropolitan cities, their parents and families during my fieldwork, I saw the way adults also are bullies, maybe as parents, siblings, teachers, or leaders. And bullying is normalized as a part of growing up, as a way to, toughen up and build resilience. And, at one point, victims also start becoming bystanders in their own story. We have the meso level, where we have the national level bullies in the form of governments, where they oppress their citizens with their beliefs for our control of power. Their insecurities make them apathetic, aggressive, and their job is to create fear. So people learn to avoid breaking the silence, and they become mute bystanders. And then, last but not the least, at the meta level, we have already witnessed so many historical events that point out powerful nations ganging up to bully with the aim of wandering, plundering, and peeling the weaker say, nations of their rights and lives. When I study history in school, I can see bullies everywhere, bullies and victims in kingdoms, in nations, in revolutions, and so many aspects of history. So as a 13-year-old, I say this with confidence, and when I read history, politics, I see bullies and victims and bystanders too. Russia, let's take an example. Russia attacking Ukraine is one example of the past. And I don't think I need to give the instances of the current situations where Palestine is struggling for a ceasefire and hasn't got one, in spite of the ICJ, UN, and other bodies asking for it. Because during the voting for ceasefire, as students, I observed the game of power dynamics and ganging up of powerful nations together, and rendering the agencies mediating useless. So I think this should explain the whole concept, because it is something that's happening right now as we speak. It's all in the power dynamics, and the moment we want to prevent such escalations to such an extent and create a just and humane world, we will have to check the power imbalance, and we will have to intervene in action, and with the intention to transform the power dynamics, which will mean humanity and safety, and somewhere where bullying is, where somewhere where everyone are upstanders. So you see, from families to international politics, from school experiences to workplace bullying, we're all experiencing bullying at some point in our lives. We may not recognize it, but we are. Um, Now, I think I would like to or I would like to ask all of you to breathe, just reflect on what I have just said in the previous slides, because what's coming now is the bulk and the most important part of my presentation, which is the imbalance of power dynamics in the case of bullying. So I hope each one of us gets open to, understand the power dynamics in this world at the micro, meso, and meta level, to, reclaim a sense of common human values like humanity, compassion, empathy, standing for the right, and not standing for the evil. We all know what an ecosystem is, don't we? So all factors of an ecosystem are dependent on each another. Imbalance in any part can cause disruptions. So all factors are dependent on one another. Even the slightest imbalance can cause an issue. And any imbalance in this ecosystem of being bullied can make the entire culture toxic. So let's understand how the imbalance in power dynamics allows breeding of bullies, discrimination, racism, sexism. And remember, the problem is in the imbalance, and the solution lies in restoring this balance. So let's begin with understanding the belief system and the self talk of the various stakeholders in situations where there is an imbalance of power. Um I have, come up with these self talks based on my field work and my own research, on field with many different people. So first we have the self talk of the bully. The bully is, if you can just read the slide, and these are just some sentences that a bully will say to himself or herself. And they give traits of insecurity. The bully might have been controlled too much at some point at the family. Maybe the parents are controlling, or maybe the parents are helicopter parents. Many factors are there. So they might have been controlled too much at some point. They might have a very low self-esteem, and they might have a need for social status or to restore their popularity. There is lack of empathy, and there's a need for control and power, and self gratification involved. These are just the common beliefs of bullies. Let's proceed to the bully's parents. The bully's parents' self talk is more defensive of their child. They're either trying to cover up their child's actions by telling that they're all just children, or try to push the responsibility towards the institutions and the teachers. Denial is, of course, understood, but as parents, when someone is highlighting any such behavior in your child, and as parents, if we are in denial, or if we invalidate the feedback without being more curious, you are creating an imbalance in this system. Let's proceed. The victim. We have the victim self-talk, and I resonate a lot with it because the self-talk is more helpless. It shows that the victim has lost the confidence and the hope to stand up for himself or herself, and is scared of the adults around him, and if they would validate his or her concern. There are many generalizations, distorted cognitions, self-deprecating beliefs, and a sense of hopelessness when the power dynamics tilt against the victim. So the stigma of being bullied is so intense that it takes every stakeholder in the equation to help the victim to get over the self defeating thoughts through the process. And victims' parents. I can never forget my parents' first reaction to me reporting my concern to them. There were knee-jerk reactions, like, she's such an achiever, why would she trouble you? Or you're just taking more time to adjust, it's not that big a deal. We can't change the school for such small situations, and that's it. And as parents of kids, I realize it's highly important to understand if you are adding to the power of imbalance, if you're adding to the power imbalance out of your beliefs, or are you helping your child get their power back in such complex and complicated equations and situations. As I shared, that the world around us is designed at every level in a way that promotes the bystander mindset. Bystanders are not born, they're always created by this power imbalance that's observed by them. Most kids are scared to be the next target of the bully. And in my case as well, it took me almost 3 years to get the bystanders in action. But this calls us to address the important issue of how bullies are empowered in any system at maybe a micro, meso, meta level, and how it is the biggest fuel for power imbalance. I have observed this through many interviews that I've had with people on field, and realized that institutions, they need to be equipped to maintain a healthy power dynamic. That need that, institutions are equipped with with healthy power dynamics. Uh, you know, it's all inefficient, and they're incapable of even recognizing the shift in power in the system, because institutions need to be more mindful. But as you see on this slide, you can look at the self talk of institutions. There's a core belief of many, this self talk is a core belief of many institutions, that allow the victim to suffer in silence, and feeds and gives, and makes the bully more wild, and more prone to increasing the rate and aggression in the case of bullying. Last but not the least, we have the policy lawmakers. These are, another important stakeholders who need to get rid of this line of thinking that you're seeing on the slide, because policymakers need to implement the laws that they have created against bullying, on field, and not just create a pile of documents that are just getting covered with dust. The laws and policies framed need to be implemented, because and monitoring the implementation and collaborating with all stakeholders is the need of the hour. No country has a policy making body that supports bullying. However, we have 1 in 3 kids being bullied worldwide, and policymakers can focus on anti-bullying with all their power. Their intent and their actions are very critical to balance this equation of power dynamics. These slides next that I'm going to present are very much self-explanatory. So I've given you a very layman understanding of the beliefs and self-talk that punctures the balance of power. And it's important to know why is there an imbalance in the power dynamics, and the beliefs and the stereotypes, the prejudices, the biases, that give rise to such self talk in various stakeholders. And you're going to see and observe that in the next slides. um just pause, just go through the slides, and you can see here that how the different environment of the bully impacts and gives rise to the bully wanting to bully others. So how important it is to maintain a safe and a secure environment for the bully, and right role models. Then we have the victim. So we need to have so for victims, you can see here that they are all having unique qualities in them, something that most people um, are not supportive of, maybe from physical appearance, or they are different from race or religious or cultural beliefs. So does it mean that we need to have inclusion policies? It means that we need to have inclusion policies in every institutions, so that so that people who are being bullied can settle in, and can feel safe in school. So my experience of adjusting is actually how my bullying started. So I was a girl, like, from a very small town in India, and I'm coming to this place with so modern, and there are people with, and the people and the kids are so different from what I have or from the peers I have been friends with or have interacted with. Because over in India, we are literally having 70 kids in one class, but every child is getting that attention. But in Dubai, I observed that there are just 20 people in a class, but still there is a fail. But still the institution is failing to give that required attention to the students. Then we have the police parents. Of course, you can read the slides and just pause and just reflect on how bullies' parents actually contribute to the imbalance in power dynamics and the reasons behind it. We have the victim's parents, where of course, just go through it because they're literally all very self-explanatory. And how the victim's parents, you can see through the reasons that there is a loophole in the family relation, the relation between the parents and the child, and all the points support this fact that I just mentioned. Because see, the victim's parents are overprotective, there's lack of knowledge, communication gaps, feeling of guilt, of self-blame. So we can observe how the communication gaps and the overprotectiveness can be a reason for an imbalance in the power dynamics. Of course, institutions, something that's very common across countries. There's lack of discipline to intervene and to accept the fact that there is something called bullying existing, and that they have to acknowledge and validate the concerns of the victim. So this is something that's missing, which is why there is balance there's an imbalance in the power dynamics, and how these institutions are contributing towards this. Of course, not all institutions are having these issues. Some institutions are very over the top, and they're very expressive and very proactive in acknowledging and validating what the victim is going through. So you can just read through the slides because they're very self-explanatory and something that we have experienced on a like around us. So I've introduced the problem, the cause of the problem, and now I just want to share the solution. Of course, it won't happen overnight. Global warming is like all of us are trying to eradicate it, but nothing's happening. We're not able to see the solutions of global warming, right? So just like that, bullying is an issue that uh, that won't be eradicated overnight. Even if we follow the solution, it won't be eradicated overnight. It will need consistency and discipline to really make a change. So the problem and crisis of bullying has very long impacts on victims and also on the bully. In fact, I will not shy away to say that the impact is across all stakeholders, and the impact is based on the role each stakeholder plays in this tug of power. It's ultimately important to restore this imbalance of power in the following ways. So addressing the imbalance of power dynamics, this is something that I just doodled when I was working on my book that I'm trying to author. But every time I think it's over, there's something that I need to add new because of the experiences that's happening around me, or the experiences that are happening in school. So a new aspect unfolds, and I again make my changes. I again draft the plan through the shared experiences, and it's all still a dream that I'm hoping to achieve soon. So this ABCDE model that is coming on screen is a great way to restore the power dynamics. It's like a cheat sheet. So if we follow in this order, unless every stakeholder doesn't acknowledge the power imbalance or the possibility of power imbalance, the solution is never attainable. It's never attainable. So unless you accept the fact and acknowledge that there's a loophole in the power dynamics, only then you will be able to start in restoring the power dynamics. Okay, working on the belief system alignment is the prime duty of parents of the bully as well as the parents of the victim, and something also of not just the bully or the victim, the parents of bystanders. So parents in general should have a belief system which is in the right way, not something that is stereotypical or something that is very orthodox, because this can lead to bystanders not taking, or this can lead to a rise in bystanders. And it is also one of the ways we can make children upstanders by giving them that, by realigning the belief system. So the belief system cannot be changed by force or aggression. It needs compassion and focused collaboration and transaction between the stakeholders. Openness and safe space for difficult conversations is a must. Do not shy about talking about bullying, because it is something that if you do not talk about it, your child might experience it. So always be open and always create that safe space. And all these points that I've just mentioned can only be achieved through evidence based methods that I shall share towards the end. I haven't included the bystanders and the policymakers in this slide. But that doesn't mean they're not important or their role is limited. But if these four stakeholders swing in action, the other two will follow suit. So, who's responsible? Who's accountable? And what is our role in the power dynamics? And the timing of the evaluation of power dynamics is the blazing element. Are we going to wait for an instance to be reported, or are we going to jump in action with a knee jerk reaction when a kid gets arms in school or attempts suicide? Or are we going to keep playing the blame game and further create um, a deeper power imbalance in our homes, schools, colleges, communities, and in the world? So or are we going to be taking this moment proactively and step out and of the reactive zone, and do your bit with integrity and consistency? To be honest, the choice is yours. So the victims action plans, they are actually, victims just need to, they're in fact about resetting yourself, taking your power back. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, something that I really believe in. And the expectation of absolute justice is a myth. I fought 3 years for absolute justice, but then at one point I realized that you can't get absolute justice. But this does not mean that you do not fight for justice. At least some amount of justice is necessary to get that closure from the bullying experiences. Stop self internalizing, or going on a spree by going on a spree by internalizing what your bullying is throwing at you, and stop normalizing what's happening. I did that, but I used to think that it's all normal, everyone goes through it, but it's not. If it's repetitive, aggressive, intentional, and taking the power from your hands, then be sure it's bullying. And if there are anyone who needs help, you can write to me on seherpahadi@gmail.com. If you think you need a safe space to share your story, you're not alone. Victims' parents. Um, my parents denied in the beginning, but once they saw what was happening, they have been my pillars of strength. They have spent hundreds of hours leaving everything they had to do in giving me that space to share, and they were always connected to me. They helped me channelize my emotions into healthy coping mechanisms and not something unhealthy. And I think they are so sensitive. They are still observing the power dynamics that really happened in my story. They're proud that I'm in therapy, but I was very resistant at the time, and I displaced my anger at them many times, but they never invalidated my pain, or started or came back at me. They always accepted what I was going through and acknowledged it. And I can proudly say, Alhamdulillah, that they have been my anchors and the biggest support system in this journey. Um, Mom, Dad, this slide is dedicated to both of you for taking literally every point here and more. And I wish parents can learn these skills of helping their kids with bullying. It takes time, and my struggle is, of course, not over yet. But with them besides me, I know I will, inshallah, get ahead. And I hope that all you parents here tick these action points and, give that hope to your child. The bully's parents. Of course, it's difficult to accept that your child is bullying someone, but openness is a great way to you accept this fact and go ahead by uh, you know helping your child and the victim. So when the school calls you to address the concerns that your child might be creating, it's a very uncomfortable and awkward moment. Imagine, uh, you know so this is something that the police parents should know, that they have to accept and they have to acknowledge and they have to give that open space to that their child, if to be honest and tell them what really is going on. This is true for the both victim and police families, where they understand the power dynamics in their own nest, and it's a great step of so I think something these are the important points that the bullies parents should follow and tick them off, so they are restoring the power dynamics and making it more safer for their child and for the victim. Institutions. Here, I would like to highlight the need of for evidence-based programs. I'm having a budget to implement it. We cannot have immunity against bullying, but we need to create a system that facilitates the stakeholders in institutions to closely supervise, monitor, and act proactively towards the prevention of bullying. So the organizational culture, classroom management by teachers, skill development of the teacher and staff, collaboration with parents and kids are the key contributors to start restoring the power dynamics. I would like to mention my dear principal, Dr. Sheila Menon. When I came to her with my concern after the meeting, every day, like, to be honest, every day she would stand in front of the gate and always ask me every morning, "How are you, Seher? Are you okay?" Every morning. And when I didn't have friends, this was one ray of hope that made me, attend school. Okay. And my parents wanted me to leave school, to be honest. They were like, "Why are you struggling?" But I was very insistent because Sheila ma'am gave me a safe space. Never has she ever closed the door on our faces or told us not to come to her or told us that she can't do anything. And she's done everything she can. To be honest, she never shut the door on either me or you know my parents. um Sheila ma'am, thank you for this if you're in the audiences. And in my journey after isolation for an entire year, uh I met my class teacher, Jennifer ma'am, who was another wonderful teacher who noticed that there's this imbalance in the power dynamics, and her support added so much confidence, and I treasure her so much. I love her a lot. And to be honest, she was one of the trusted teachers who really helped me get out of the pit, get out of the sulking mode. you know I think something that I really cherish about Jennifer ma'am and I really love about her. And in the next year, I met my SST and history teacher, who literally made sure that I learned to swim against the tide. She created a very safe space for me. Uttara ma'am helped me with new perspectives, and she was always standing with the truth. And she, used to always tell me, she used to give me this one phrase: royal ignorance. Every time I would go to her with the problem, she would always tell, royal ignorance. Think that you're the queen, think that you're the queen of the class, and keep your head high, and don't think about what others thinking, just ignore them because it just defines who they are. And there were many teachers who did not know that I was going through all this, but indirectly helped me a lot, like Nilanjana ma'am, my history teacher, and many more teachers. If I start taking their names, the webinar is going to end, so I can't do that. But I'm very thankful to all the teachers. And I would also like to thank Feather Auntie, who I collaborated on when I was having I conducted an interview with her, and that's where I met her first, for Cactus Foundation. And then we became best friends. And she's from Colorado, Denver, and I have always shared everything with her. And she is she's one of my greatest mentor, and she has always, increased my confidence and increased my self esteem. There is also one more mentor that I would like to thank, who was, who is my teacher and mentor for extracurricular activities, Alok sir, who called a spade a spade. And he was the first upstander after my family who, chose to be one. And all these significant adults, other than my parents, tried their bit in restoring the power dynamics in my story, and I really see the difference in it. So just imagine if we all choose to reflect our roles in the power dynamics and help in restoration, a lot of change can be expected at any level where you function. So don't silence against bullying, and we will create bigger and stronger bullies for future workforces and societies if we do not restore this imbalance in power dynamics. Now, my positive takeaways after this whole experience, and I think all these stakeholders that I've just mentioned before have played very pivotal roles in helping me restore my power dynamics. I'm in therapy. I resisted for 2 years out of the fear of being, stigmatized or teased at. But I resisted until, I got my first panic attack in May, last year, May, when my anxiety, peaked when the rumors about my character were being spread. But my friends at school, just 4 to 5 of them have been upstanders in their own capacity too. So I think all of this entire system of mine, which improved after, improved, and which tried to restore the power dynamics, is, I think, one of them is the greatest reason why I am here today, and which has, motivated me to spread this message to all of you. So you can just look at the slide, something of my positive takeaways. My current state, I think I'm, alhamdulillah, in a much better place right now, thanks to my therapist, Dr. Haneen, and my parents. I have been able to, reach a closure, but I still don't wish bad for my bully at all. And I never wished when I was in pain too, because I believe the making of a bully, or the making of a victim, the power lies with the adults around these kids, and it's very irrational to blame the bully or the victim. And I no longer accept absolute justice, because you can never get absolute justice. Adults need to find ways to, repair the ruptures created by this imbalance in power dynamics. Getting bullied was not in my control. Going through anxiety, depression, is my struggle. And what's in my control is that I choose to take the power back. I choose to heal. I choose to, look at the positives from a realistic point of view, and I choose to be an upstander. I choose to love myself. I choose to count my blessings, like my teachers, friends, and of course my parents. I choose to channelize my experience to help others. One of the reasons why I am here today. I choose myself just the way I am, and not the way my bully described, or not the way the people think or say or comment about me. And I don't think right now, or after this whole experience, I don't need the permission from someone who hurts me, and just for the reason, so that I don't need a permission from them to heal, or to be happy, because the power is in my hands, and I'm the boss of me, so I can choose what I want to do. um These are just a few resources that I have brought together. Many researchers, teachers, and people and professionals working in psychology, clinical in the department of psychology, or in protection of child rights, anti-bullying organizations, they have recommended these books that are just being presented on the screen. And you might be a teacher, or a child rights profession, a child rights advocate, or a parent, and you can buy these books, read them with the children around you, with your own kids, and enforce that idea that bullying is wrong. And one of the ways you can play your part in protecting your child from bullying someone, or from being bullied. Then we have I have brought some many I've bought these four amazing evidence based programs, because I saw that, I researched a bit, and I felt that these were some of the best in the world. But one of them that I really like is the Kiva program, which is in Finland. And they're conducting like sessions, 12-hour sessions every month, and giving assignments that the teachers have to complete with their children to enforce the idea of bullying. They're conducting one-to-one sessions with victims, with bullies, and they're doing a lot more. So you, if you're a teacher or a principal, you can incorporate this idea into your school. Just some evidence based organizations that will help you out to gain more understanding of bullying, and to raise awareness on it. Now, before we end, let's end with a thought provoking activity, as I promised in the start of the webinar. I generally do this in my workshops, like all the participants do it with me, but since it's a webinar, I will do it alone. But if you want to just hold a paper in your hand, you can hold just a plain paper in your hand. It can be from your notebook or any for paper or whatever it is. So you hold the paper in your hand, and I'm going to say some very mean statements. And when I say a mean statement, just crumple a part of the paper, okay? So just follow the lead, and you'll get to know. So let me start. Um, Everyone hates you. The world will be a better place if you die. You're such a crybaby. You're so ugly that you're eligible for getting the award for the ugliest person in the world. Even a monkey looks better than you. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're such a wannabe. Are you blind? Count this. Oh no, you need a brain to count, and you don't have one. You're the worst, and everyone hates you. So, I don't know if all of you have done it or not, but I surely have. So, I'm going to open the paper slowly. I'm going to say sorry, and I'm going to open the paper. Sorry. And I'm now opening the paper one by one. Some of you may have got the idea, some of you may have not, but this signifies that opening the paper is like healing, and trying to fit in the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, like one fold at a time, one piece of puzzle at a time. But it takes a very long time to heal, and to get rid of the trauma that has been inflicted on you. um and even when you think that you've completely healed, the wrinkles or the scars of being bullied remains, like the wrinkles on your paper, which can never be straightened, or which can never be removed. So moving on, a question to all of you before I end my presentation is, which side of the power dynamics do you want to be? Are we still going to give knee-jerk reactions, or as part of the ecosystem, as a student, as a parent, as or as a representative of an institute? What proactive measures are you willing to take to combat bullying? This is how I would like to conclude my presentation. And I hope I left a great message for all of you. I would now like to hand over the stage back to the host for today, Jane Estes.
Oh, Sahir, I have never been so impressed, moved, touched. Your journey, your story, your ability to articulate all of that is just outstanding. I mean, I know you didn't have the ability to watch chat, but had you been able to, just the overwhelming amount of people today that you not only shared valuable information and perspective with, but I think you really engaged us all and energized us all to tackle such a difficult topic, a difficult story, a difficult situation to manage. And I know in the audience we have practitioners, we have teachers, we have NGO leaders, we have parents. And I think everyone left with some incredibly valuable information. And I think that if I had one thing to really say before we start the panel is when you speak so eloquently about changing the power dynamic, you are such a perfect example of doing that. You took a situation that was hurtful and tragic and could have really been debilitating for someone of your age or someone of anyone's age, and you took that into just an incredible journey of strength. So I could not applaud you more, and I will send you the chat log because I want you to see how well your message was received and how supportive everyone around you has been. So, and again, I can't thank you enough for sharing this with us. At this point, I'd also like to introduce Nusrat Khan, who is the founder and director of the Cactus Foundation, and Rohit Pahad, who is also founder, chairman, and engineer of Cactus Foundation India, and just who also happen to be Sahir's wonderful parents. So they've joined us today as well. And I guess, before we kick into Q&A, for both of you, Nusrat and Rohit, what do you want to say? I mean, Sahir's talked a lot about the journey of that you went on with her, how bumpy and supportive that it was, and a journey that almost all of us have probably been on as parents somewhere along the way. So I'd just love for you to share.
Hi, everyone. This is Nusrat here, Sahir's mom. By profession, I'm a clinical psychologist, and it's an honor to be here on the stage. I've just been weeping using tissues while I was here because this was a very, very big moment for us. And every time she takes these presentations, it's difficult. So as parents, I would definitely want to say is that do not be dismissive when your children come to you with any concerns. And I think we left Sahir alone for 3 to 4 months, and that's something very difficult for us to, change that. So of course, we kind of, took the track up and we were able to do the needful later. But still 3 to 4 months, my child was alone. And I would definitely appeal to all the parents, to the teachers, to everyone that they don't leave their children alone when you hear from them. It's very important to have that compassionate inquiry with your child to understand what they're going through. And that makes a lot of difference is what I believe. And apart from that, I would also say that, in this entire equation, it's not the other people who have tried to balance the power dynamics as much as Sahir's own grace and dignity. She has, in fact, I would say, guided all of us in a very unique way on finding the loopholes in the power dynamic. Maybe that was very unintentional from her end, but today, while we are going through the presentation, we are able to kind of revisit the story in a very different way. And I know that there are a couple of stakeholders here in the meeting, and I would definitely want to thank Ambassador School, the teachers, Principal Sheila ma'am, who have, it takes a lot, right? Today, that time we would be very frustrated with the, principal at times and say that, ma'am, this is not working, what are we doing, and all of it. But I think it took us time to understand that for changes to happen, we all have to be patient, but we also have to be in sync with each other. And I think as the stakeholders in Sahir's life, the parents, the institution, she herself, her friends, I cannot mention them. I cannot name everyone, but there are 4 to 5 people who are there in the audiences, and I want them to know that there was a lot of syncing that we had with each other, slowly, steadily, and in that process. And I think that collaboration meant a lot. And we, as parents, we just want to thank each one of you for joining this. I don't know, I'm so overwhelmed. Even if I'm like making any sense, I don't know. Rohit, over to you.
Hi everyone, I hope I'm audible because we are talking from Seher's microphone, laptop's microphone. So my 2 cents that I can share as a father of, a girl, she happens to be my weakest and the strongest part. So when it happened, there's a lot of confusion that we went through, that there's a lot of emotional turmoil that we all went through. We've had days of we used to cry, and I'm still so emotional about it. But what I've learned from Seher and and Nusrat as well, women are very strong. Men, I guess it's very difficult for men to take a stand. And I think these two ladies have taught me to take stands and to fight for what is right. And I think there's so much of learning from Seher in last 3 years. We've seen her struggle. We have seen her coming out of the struggle. I mean, that's been the best part of it. And today, seeing her take the stage and heal so many kids, I mean, it's wonderful.
Thank you to both of you and your amazing parents as a testimony to seeing Seher and listening to her. So I want to go to the Q&A, and then I had a couple that came through directly to me that I want to ask. And then after that, we're ready to try something a little new today and to allow people to raise their hand, and we can unmute you to share your thoughts and ask your question directly to Seher. I do want to say it for those of you who need to leave us. I may stop the recording at 9:30, so you certainly have that option to sign off. But if you'd like to stay and have the ability to continue on beyond that, we are certainly will leave the site open for you. So the first question that came really to all three of you is, it says, an entirely new kind of parenting education that reaches everyone everywhere could be an extraordinarily powerful kind of bullying prevention. Should public health authorities be developing this new kind of parenting education? And if so, what would it look like? Who would it reach? How would it work? And if you had any, thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I think I've lost Seher's audio.
no, I'm just
There you
reading
go.
the
Okay,
question.
perfect. And I know it's a big question, by the way. I think in a nutshell, like, let me, ask it a different way. So Seher, what, as knowing what you experienced, knowing what your parents experienced, know how difficult it is on this side of it to really acknowledge the steps along the way, or what would you want, parents to know? And I think you did a great job of covering that in your presentation. But if there was the ability to train every new mother or every new father going into this journey, of adolescence with their child, what would you want them to know, or what would you want them to be keenly aware of?
I think the most important point that I would like to tell all parents, new parents, who are about to, have their child in the world. So I would like to just tell that the most important point is that you have a very honest communication with your child, so that the child feels comfortable to come home and let you know that maybe he or she is going through something at school, or maybe he or she is harming someone, and then the parents can rectify the mistakes or whatever the child is feeling at that time. So having an open communication and having an open space for the children since day one is, I think, the most important way to reduce this epidemic of bullying. So just doing this at home gives your child that assurance that whatever happens, you will always that my parents will always be there for me. And I had that assurance with my parents, and which is this assurance gives hope to maybe the bully or the victim, whatever it is. So the most important point, have an open communication and an open space for your children since day one.
That's perfect. Nusrat, Rohan, do you want to add anything from a parent's perspective?
Yeah, so I think this is a very important and a relevant question that someone has asked. With my experience as the director of Cactus Foundation India, which works to create safe childhoods in India, you can visit our website and you can take a look at the different programs that we have for kids. And we follow a model in Cactus Foundation, especially in terms of the parenting education that we are talking about. And it's not just public health authorities. I think what's important, and that was also delivered during Seher's presentation, I believe, was stressing on the role of all the stakeholders that are involved and responsible. So when we talk about sensitization, it cannot just be parents, it cannot just be schools, it cannot just be policymakers, it cannot just be one of the stakeholders. It has to be covering in terms of awareness, sensitization, empowering, education for all these stakeholders, customizing to their needs, customizing to the culture, being more, culture centric, culture specific, and then designing these programs and making these programs available at a low cost or minimum cost. So in Cactus especially, we do everything for free, zero. We are putting in our own funds and running this organization. We are always, it's always no funds, but I think it's important to reach the weakest section in the audiences, in the population, as well as we should be able to reach someone who's the most strongest, affluent as well, irrespective of the financial dynamics. But involving all stakeholders is something that I would highly recommend, and I would highly encourage for any program to be successful and for the real change to happen. And it cannot be a program that will be run for 1 year and 2 years. Once you roll such programs in terms of parenting for bullying, or in terms of parenting for preventing child sexual abuse, or in terms of, parenting for gender sensitization, or parenting for mental health awareness, whatever awareness that you want to create, the change that you want to see, you will have to consistently work at least for a decade, is what I believe, to see the actual results. You can't be rolling on a project, because that's what I've observed. There's a trend that we roll on projects and then we forget about them. After 1 year and 2 years, we're like, oh, it's gone. And we did this and we did that. So especially NGOs and organizations that are involved in designing these programs must know that the relevance of your program is when you are able to cater to the population at least for a decade on a consistent basis by continuously evolving things and involving all stakeholders. That's a must that cannot be ignored. I hope I answered that question, Jane.
You did perfect. And I really want to encourage everyone to visit Cactus Foundation's website. I believe the link was shared in chat, and they are a country partner of ours, and we are so thankful for the resources that they do have on their website, open access. And there's just some tremendous resources on there that we hope that you access. There was another question that came through about just systems, right? Institutions that only acknowledge physical bullying. And I know that you touched on that, Seher, or only prioritize physical bullying. You had a great point during your presentation that said no system says they tolerate, or institution says they tolerate bullying, but many just address physical bullying because it's something you can prove, it's something you can see. So for all three of you, how do we shift that dial, to make sure that institutions and individuals and stakeholders recognize the emotional toll of cyberbullying, mental bullying, psychological bullying. I just, I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Would you like to answer?
I think, most institutions are focused towards physical bullying. So it is important to know that there are educate there are teachers and principals that there are other forms of bullying too, like verbal, cyberbullying, passive aggressive bullying, and these are very silent. The worst is passive bullying because it is something that no one will know is happening to you. It's just between the victim and the bully. So the stakeholders will not or the bystanders will stand up for the victim, and it's very difficult for parents also to identify that there is passive bullying going on. So the first step is to educate themselves the signs of passive bullying, and to whatever it is. So if even if it is physical or verbal or passive bullying or cyberbullying, it is important to acknowledge the fact. So when you acknowledge that yes, there is something called passive bullying, and yes, there is something called verbal bullying or cyberbullying, then you are automatically prone to investigate further, instead of asking evidences, which is something that triggers victims a lot, because such forms of bullying cannot be proven. Like only one or two people might be ready to stand up if they have seen something like this in around them or seen their friend being bullied like this, but majority will not. So I think this is something that's really important to acknowledge and accept that there is something like this, and to educate on the signs and on how one can, or how an institution can help the victim and the bully. So mom, dad, if you want to answer it,
Yeah,
please.
and the responsibility of proving that there is bullying should not be on victim. So if the victim has raised a concern, one thing is it should be very professionally, it should be handled by the school. So you should have counselors and psychologists and whatever, the concerned people to take up the case. Many a times it happens that, there is no proof, so you cannot go to the bully and just confront the bully. But there should be ways of questionnaires and taking questions and taking one-to-one sessions with. So these programs should keep on running throughout the year with the kids, so that many other kids who are suffering from this can come up. You might be able to get something from one-to-one interaction with the bully. So as a normal this thing, like you interact with 10 people every month, including the bully. So you don't tell that there is a complaint against you, but you just have a casual interaction that, okay, this is what is happening. So at least try to get some information. We totally understand that, the mental health of bully is also important, that, somebody is going and telling them that, no, you're bullying. So it might impact their mental health. And also the mental health of a victim is getting impacted. So to say one, you're trying to, you're ready to sacrifice the other. So in order to save the bully, you're ready to sacrifice the victim, that, okay, you get the proof. Till the time you don't have a proof, we will not be able to take an action against the person. And you also need to understand till what intensity it is going, and somewhere you will have to open or you will have to confront the bully as well, the bully and the parents, not in a way where you call the person as a bully, but that these are the problems that some other kids are facing, and there needs to be a dialogue between both the parties, like the victims and the bully. So I think it should be handled very professionally in a school setup.
I would further like to add, like whatever Rohit has said, yes, I do agree with it, but schools also have their limitation. And I think it's not the parent in me who's speaking right now, honestly speaking, people who run institutions. And I think this is something that I've always been discussing, even with Seher's teachers and schools, that we understand the limitations. But you also have to know that teachers in our system are heavily burdened with like n number of responsibilities, and all my empathy for the teachers, because I've seen that, like even in India, when we visit schools and see there is There is, other than teaching, they have so many other responsibilities, and it's very difficult to expect everything from one class teacher, one person, one supervisor, or the principal for that matter. What I believe is that if we have the evidence-based programs that can be rolled on, which involve the multiple stakeholder policy, continuous communication, and when we have evidence-based programs, they run in a way where there are checks and balances that are being put into place. Like if there's a robust system that is created, a process that is created. And the more you talk about it, like, bullying is not just about spending one day and saying, okay, we are going to celebrate this day as a bullying awareness day. That cannot be. These conversations need to be, the teachers have to be trauma informed. The staff needs to be trauma informed. There has to be this continuous sensitization, because, for teachers, it's like, okay, one child is coming and complaining, the other is also complaining the same. So sometimes, you kind of get desensitized, just the way it happens in the medical profession. I see, like, every day if I'm pricking, people with needles and sucking the blood out for testing, if some child is crying, okay, I'm like, I better do my job. So you cannot be like, you have to have that sensitivity, and to have that, the evidence-based program call for a continuous, you can say, dialogue between the various stakeholders. Involving the parents is also one of the most important things, especially in terms of the passive bullying that happens, and nobody acknowledges it. They don't even understand what do you mean by passive bullying. There's so many, even educationists I have met who do not, oh yes, it's bullying. And the basic notion that most of us have in our society is that, oh, it's a part of growing up. They'll get better. It's there to toughen kids up. So all these myths about bullying need to be dispelled. And that's why there's a lot of education. There's a lot of scope for awareness on the various forms of bullying, and not just talk about the physical harm that can be done, not just talk about evidence in face of camera. So there are different ways in which the teachers, the entire staff, the parents, the kids, because when we're talking about the victim in the bullying scenario, the other child who's bullying is also a child. And we also have to be sensitive towards that child. And I think that this helped us as parents as well, because I believe we have been extremely patient. Because they've been we have had friends in our this thing like, okay, why are you so quiet? Like, it's been 3 years. But no, we saw that there was there was progress, but there was like step by step, slowly, it was happening. But we are very proud of one thing, that we have not, it didn't become a personal agenda to malign the bully or to isolate the bully or to talk about the bully. That was not the case ever. So it's very important to be sensitive to the victim as well as to the bully. And this education and empowerment from time to time, that continuous hammering in the system needs to be there. And evidence-based programs. And I think Seher has mentioned 4 programs in her slides. I'm not too aware of it, honestly speaking, because Cactus has its own program that we run in terms of bullying with different schools. We collaborate with schools. But the core is involving the multiple stakeholders and creating an agency or a space where every kid can come up and share what they are feeling, what they do, and how it is happening, and taking the concern seriously and curiously investigating into these cases, and not like shutting them off, saying that that's not true. So I think, yeah, that should help. I hope we answered the question.
Yeah, and Jane, going back to the previous question of parents and the parenting program, I think as individuals, I would like to touch one point, on that question. So as individuals, as professionals, we often spend money to enhance our skill set. But when it comes to parenting, we do not want to spend anything, because we think that, okay, a couple of YouTube videos will help us enhance or make us a better parent. I think there should be a family budget in terms of, developing your EQ or your family, dynamics, talking to professionals. I think there should be a daily or a monthly budget, as well as for the institute. There should be a budget for these activities. Most of the times you don't see a budget with the institute as well for such activities. They have budget. They might have budget for extracurricular. They might have budget for sports day. They might have budget for everything else, but not for this. So a monthly budget or yearly budget should be allocated for this.
And
What
one
an
last thing,
amazing parenting tip. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Nusrat, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, that's something Rohit keeps on propagating, and we do have a wellness budget in our home, definitely. One thing that I observed in my interactions in the last entire decade when it comes to bullying is even the counselors and psychologists. I have had kids who have been shut down by counselors and psychologists in their schools. Forget the teachers or forget the other stakeholders, but counselors and psychologists in their schools. And that was very shocking to me. And that was like, how can this be? You're going there because you cannot afford therapy outside, and the school is directing you to the school counselor or to the psychologist in the school. And if they are being dismissive, if they are invalidating passive bullying just because this is just call for attention, and using the DSM continuously to diagnose a victim and labeling the victim with different symptoms and mental health concerns, and not focusing on the core problem, and not being sensitive about the trauma that the child, whether it's a victim or a bully, who has gone through. I think that's also very important. Even as a clinical psychologist, as a licensed practicing clinical psychologist in Dubai in India, I believe that it's our duty as professionals, whether you're a social worker, you're a teacher, whatever role, that's what I'm saying. You need to take that stake in the power dynamics of how you're going to be interacting when something like this comes up to you. If you don't have the skills, do not kind of do more damage. Instead, there is something known as referring to the right person, so that you can refer, you can talk about it, you need to have that integrity with you, that I'm sorry, I don't think so I'm equipped to handle this right now. So and I've also observed that even in our fraternity, there's a lot of Google searching that happens, and we are just kind of continuously going by the the AI searches that give us. So it's important that we know that there has to be quality, there has to be trauma informed care, and all the points that we just mentioned.
That's perfect. Thank you to both of you. And I do, Seher, you did such an amazing job, I think, of in your presentation talking about, no, there was no potential physical bullying that happened to you, but all of the psychological and physiological responses that you felt and dealt with, and what it did to your self-esteem, what it did to, really just your whole person. And I think that for any maybe institution that struggles with not seeing anything outside physical bullying as a true form of bullying, that your presentation alone really shows that journey is the same. Whether somebody is, attacking your psyche as opposed to attacking you physically, the collateral damage is the same. The long-term damage is the same. So I think you've done a great job of that as well, presenting that. I am going to, for sake of time, I will stop the recording in a bit, but I wanted to just formally thank you. We'll keep the conversation going offline, but Seher, I will send you the chat log, and I hope that you felt the love. When you read it, you'll know that what you're doing is an incredible way to change the power dynamic, to help others, to impact society in general. I mean, I could not be more impressed, and I think you'll feel that from everyone when you see the comments. Thank you for sharing this with us and being willing to go on an international stage. You had school today, and you just impacted an international multidisciplinary audience tonight. So it's been a full day for you. But again, thank you. And thank you to everyone that joined. Again, I will keep the link open after I turn off the recording. I know you put a link for a feedback loop for Seher that I hope everyone has the chance to access, and I will send it in a follow-up email as well. And just to reiterate that everyone will get a recording of the session, and they'll also get Seher's presentation slides, and we'll try to put links to some of the studies and resources that she cited. But again, thank you so much to everyone who joined as well.
Thank you.
Jane, I just had it out. There are 2 questions in the Q&A section. So when am I supposed to answer them?
Let's stop the recording so people have the option to sign off, and then we'll answer them now. Sound good?
Thank you. Thank you.